This video will show you how to replace the rear shock on a Mazda 3. This is part of your rear suspension located behind your rear wheel. Let's get into it. To remove the rear wheel, we're going to remove all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, we have a clear view of our rear shock. Let's start with the mounting hardware down along the bottom first. Now down along this bottom area, I'm using a 19mm to remove the mounting nut. A quick inspection of the mounting hardware as we continue on, replace as necessary. Now that we have that out of there, I'm going to apply support underneath my rear control arm holding this up, and we'll continue on to the upper hardware next. Now up in this area, we can see the upper portion of our shock. We have the mount. 2 14mm mounting nuts are holding this in place. We'll remove the pair. Get this one out of here. Now we can see that did separate up in this area. You can take hold of this. We'll start pulling it down, compressing the rear shock, and then we'll continue on by pulling it out of place down along the bottom as well. Continuing on, we're going to remove the washer from this area. Now you should be able to take hold of the shock and slide it out of place. If you find it doesn't slide out of place, it's typically due to the internal bushing, not the rubber portion, but the metal portion. It's going to be stuck on this shaft right along here. If that's the case and you can't properly slide it off, you're going to have to cut the shock, cut the bushing, remove those, and then we'll continue on with the metal bushing behind this area, which is what I'm going to have to do. Let's see if I can get this out of here now. Now on my particular shock, as you can tell, I had to cut the bottom. I did not cut anywhere near the gas-filled cartridge. This is extremely important. For now, I'm just going to set this aside so we can continue on with the next piece here. As I mentioned, typically all this will just slide apart. Once you have the rear shock out of position, the next thing we have to do is make sure we clean and inspect all mounting surfaces. We're down along the bottom shaft here. This is the stud that the lower shock is going to sit onto. So let's just go ahead and clean this up. We can use some sandpaper or wire brush. And then we're going to add some lubricant right along this shafted area, but not necessarily on the threaded portion. Now for this, on the smooth shanked area, I'm just using some copper anti-seize. You can use pretty much any type of lubricant. This is just going to help that rear shock come off again in the future in case you ever have to replace it. Along the top here. Sure nothing's rotted and weak. This looks good. Now we have our old shock on the bench. We're looking along the top. We're going to remove our upper hardware. We can see our upper mount. We have our vibration dampener or John's bumper. Then we also have this protective cover here. We're going to remove all of this by removing this 12mm nut all the way up at the very top. To remove the 12mm headed mounting nut here, you may find that as you start to loosen it, the entire shaft of the shock is going to spin as well. So for this, you may find that you have to use a 12mm ratcheting wrench, and then you're going to have to hold onto the shaft right along the top here. You can use some locking pliers to hold that. Let's get my wrench in place. Obviously, this is going to be at an angle. Once it starts making its way out, it should become a little easier. Just a quick inspection of that. We will be using this. There it is, friend. Now, prior to installing the mount onto the shock, we need to pay attention to the upper portion here. This is the area that's going to go up against the body of the vehicle. If you see any of this white corrosion, you want to take care of it. We want to have a smooth surface. You can use some sandpaper, a scraper, or even a wire wheel, whatever's best for you. Now let's prepare our brand new rear shock for installation. I have it on the ground between my feet. I'm going to carefully press down on this cap area and remove the strap from the bottom of the shock. We can remove that. Now we'll let that shock completely expand. Once it's completely expanded, we're going to recompress this, let it expand, and repeat this process several times. This is going to activate the gases inside of the rear shock. Okay, so now we've completed this process several times. Let's prepare to install this in the vehicle. We're going to take the upper portion and slide it over the shaft of the rear shock. Slide it all the way down so we can gain access to the top area here. Just go ahead and press it through. Once you have it slid through there, we're going to continue on with our brand new mounting nut. We're not reusing our original here. Continue on by tightening up your 14 millimeter headed mounting nut. Once it's snug, we're going to torque that to 30 foot-pounds. Okay, the shaft is spinning, which is what we know. Okay, that's bottomed out. Now I've got my torque wrench. We can attempt to torque this. If you find you have a hard time holding it, you can try to hold this in a vise if necessary. There we are. Now let's get this over to the vehicle. Now as we bring the shock in, we're going to carefully bring the entire thing into the wheel well, but when we go to mount this, we're starting with the lower aspect. We'll be sliding that onto that mounting stud. Take our time here. We don't want to hit up against our paint. Now we can see that I do have this aligned, but I have to come in at an angle. You may have to compress the shock enough that you can pivot that inward, and then you should be able to slide this into position. There we are. Let's pay attention along the top next. Carefully start bringing this up. We're trying to align it with the studs. There we are. We'll continue on with our two upper mounting nuts. For each of these, go ahead and start them on. We'll bottom them out, and the torque for these is 30 foot-pounds. Now we can snug that hardware, and I'm going to torque it to 30 foot-pounds. As for this lower hardware, we're starting with our washer. Slide that right on there. Continue on with your 19 millimeter headed mounting nut. Once you have that started on, snug it up and torque it to 73 foot-pounds. Now I can torque this to that 73 foot-pounds. Once you have everything torqued as it needs to be, you can remove support from under your lower control arm. Now one last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our wheel. Let's get this on here. We'll start on all 5 of our 21 millimeter lug nuts, bottom them out, get the wheel safely on the ground, and we can torque each of these to 100 foot-pounds. Now we have the wheel safely back down on the ground. We're going to continue on torquing these lug nuts in a crisscross manner to that 100 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay friend, we finished the installation of our rear shock assembly. The next thing we want to do is do the exact same thing on the other side of the vehicle because you do these as a pair. After that, take your vehicle for a road test to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.